Okay, our group will be doing Chapter 6, Estimation Procedures. Today we will give the public a brief glimpse into the behind the scenes of our survey using SPSS for Windows to produce confidence intervals with the 2006 census. The 2006 census essentially provides a snapshot of the diverse characteristics of the Canadian population.
So we are part of the PLAMarketing group. We established in 2013, composed of 3 young entrepreneurs producing a smartphone for the new century. And our smartphone is called Global 13. We're using this phone to utilize estimation procedures to display cell phone use in the McMaster population. So for example, if we know that 65% of a random sample draws from McMaster, For example, if we know that 65% of a random sample drawn from McMaster use their cell phones on a daily basis, then we can estimate the percentage of all the students who use their cell phones on a regular basis. So, what is a census? A census is an official count or survey of a population, typically recording various details of individuals. For example, it can include household income groups or retirement pensions. In particular, we will be looking at the total income levels of individuals and the legal marital status of Canada in 2006. We will link our cell phone market to these variables, and looking at a census of the past will help us to market Global 13 to future customers. So when we look at the legal marital status of Canada, we will see whether or not So when we look at the legal marital status of Canadian couples, we could assume that there may be a high infidelity rate among couples, or that couples choose to use the same cell phones. And when it comes to looking at the total income levels of individuals, we could also look at whether or not their income So when looking at the total income levels of individuals, we would be able to tell whether or not they could afford a cell phone. So confidence intervals. A confidence interval is a type of estimation procedure which consists of a range of values, an interval, instead of a single point. For example, between 85% to 90% of McMaster students use a cell phone daily. Thus, we estimate that the population value falls between 85% and 90%, but we do not know the specific value. So, how to construct a confidence interval. The first step in constructing a confidence interval is to decide on the risk that you are willing to take to be wrong. An interval estimate is wrong if it does not include the population parameter. The probability of error is called alpha, represented by A. The exact value of alpha will depend on the nature of the research situation, but a 0.05 probability is commonly used. The probability of error is called alpha, represented by the Greek letter A. The exact value of alpha will depend on the nature of the research situation, but a 0.05 probability is commonly used. What does a confidence interval mean? Setting alpha equal to 0.05 is also called using the 95% confidence interval, meaning that over the long run, the researcher is willing to be wrong only 5% of the time. In other words, if an infinite number of confidence intervals were constructed at this alpha level, 95% of them would not contain the population value, and 5 of them would not. In other words, if an infinite number of confidence intervals were constructed at this alpha level, 95% of them would not contain the population value, and 5%